All right, we're going live on Zoom on YouTube for uh, Lynn and Karen. We're going to be Lynn and Sharon, maybe Karen, who knows, are going to be reading. Uh, let's see, make sure this is right. The story of Bill Thetford by Carol Howe, and Never Forget to Laugh.
You know
So,
what? I'm sorry, girls. My son called me and I picked it up and I got disconnected. So is Glorian still here? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Uh, she went for coffee, but I'm sure she's still maybe back now. So, so anyway, yay. So good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and put the book up. And this has been fascinating reading this book about Ken Wapnick and let's see.
Lynn, I want to tell you something. I've been listening to it on Audible and I have it. It's so fascinating because that is the whole course, the way she's explaining it. You know,
Oh yeah.
yeah. When you get into it, she's a fabulous teacher. Fabulous.
Yes. And it's really funny because I was thinking about this yesterday when I did go up to Denver to see Ken the first time. And this, again, it was many years ago. It was probably, I don't know, 2007 or something. And
Yeah, Granny went, you went, Regina went, you all went.
no, no, this was up in Denver. This was
Oh,
not when we
okay.
went to California. This is up in Denver a couple years before that. Um, I went up and the community, not the community, the um, uh, Rocky Mountain Miracle Center had sponsored him at uh, it was some church. It was like the First Unity Church or something. Amazing old church that I had been by many times when I was in Denver, but never had been inside of.
Right.
But
Yeah.
anyway, he gave a talk up there, and it was like I was saying, it was just a bunch of basically elderly men who were there and their wives. So, but I bet you Carol Howe was there. I can guarantee Carol Howe was there. Gloria Wapnick was there with Ken. They went out for lunch together with several people, and I was just like in awe, like, oh my God, because I had Velen read The Disappearance of the Universe, where
Ken is like the
you
big teacher, right? He's like the
right, The Disappearance of the Universe, they say that he was the primary premier teacher of A Course in Miracles, and so I was really like in awe. To say the least, and I had him signing all my books, and I mean, I was just like,
right, right.
oh
Yeah.
my God, like a kid in a candy store, really, honestly. And he
I
was,
know we think they're just so special.
yeah. Well, and that's what I
But he
told you.
was. He was a very great guy. He was.
Yeah. The thing that happened that was so spectacular to me, okay. Um, what would happen? Something had happened. Um, I guess just because I have such a balance disorder, and so I'm real unsure of myself in, a lot of places. So I use a cane. So yeah, after he was done speaking and he was up on this, it was like the altar part of the church. So there's a big place where, you could do all the the readings and all that stuff. And so he was up there, and after he was done speaking, all these people went up, and they were all standing around him and shaking his hand and hugging him and talking to him. And I was like, wow, feeling a little bit out of place, like, I didn't really belong there. Which it has That's my hallmark my whole life. I've never felt comfortable anywhere. I always feel like I am the intruder, and even here, it's a weird thing. I always feel like,
Well,
I'm,
it's part of the thought system of our egos. It,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
So anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm just standing down in the aisle looking up, and Ken with all these people surrounding him, he looked over and he looked at me, and he stopped talking to all those people, pushed through, like through them, came down, came over to me, and said hello, gave me a hug, was like, What?
Yeah, I know.
This guy is coming over here to me when he's got all these people around him and adoring and like he saw me. And I was just so, I guess, moved by the whole thing.
Well, he's very kind. That's
Yeah,
what we picked up very early on. He's very kind.
exactly. And
He's
and
so
just
he's so
yeah.
much, he's also very humble. His humanity. He doesn't like he never pretended that he knew more than like he knew the course, and that's why we wanted to listen to him, but he just had a way about him that included everyone. Everyone. And that's what you want. You don't when you have a spiritual teacher that makes you feel like you're not important, that's just another egoic way of looking at everything. That's
Well,
how
it's
I
it's how a lot of people control, and he was not into controlling anything.
That's right. That's
he,
right.
he just was he would just the last when you were talking about the reason that we do things for approval. Rafi told us all about it.
Right.
Control. And what's the other one? Anyway,
Safety is it's approval, control, and safety, right?
and safety, that's right.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that conversation you were having with Marcy about her daughter and your kids and all that, look at how much of it is my desire for approval, control, or safety.
Right. Oh
It's
yeah. It's all
Yeah,
about
it's
being
all
liked
right
by
there.
our own children. We want to be liked by them. We don't want them we want when we die for them to say we are the best mother.
Yeah, well, yeah, I hope I don't have to think about that part because
Right. I'm just saying that I'm talking hypothetically, not really. Yeah.
because I
Because we're
think in my
crazy.
time
I
I
mean, we are crazy, all of us.
Yeah.
We're all
Well,
nuts.
think about this though, Sharon. Think about this, okay? And just we don't have to go into depth about this. I'm just gonna say it. When you die, what part of this world remains? When
No
you're no
part.
longer here to observe it, what
No.
part of this world, your children, is there still a world?
You know what's so funny that you said that? Because Florian, are you on? Florian,
Yes, I'm back.
do you remember you were telling me once about Sandy's
Right,
husband?
right.
Tell,
That's exactly what he said, what Lynn just said. And that's true. It really is true if you think about it. If this is a projection of our unresolved guilt and our thoughts, when we cease to be projecting them and move on to the next
Movie.
transition, and the whole thing is what remains, and that's the whole point. Yeah, and that's what
nothing.
we don't want to let go of. If
Right.
every
We don't want to let go of our kids. No, no, but we
right,
are.
that's the idol, that's the golden calf. Then that's
Right.
that's
Right.
And
That's
we're
that's
cool.
imagining that they're going to have a thought about us, but they're not even there to have a
right
thought because we're
because they're
projecting them.
Right. We're
right.
projecting them. Yeah.
He said the way he put it was they're a figment of our imagination.
Yeah. Who said that?
So, Sandy's husband, Richard, my
Yeah.
friend,
Oh,
yeah, years ago he told me that, and I
yeah.
was
He
like,
told
I
me
was
that
like,
when
yes,
a couple of years ago too. I think you and I first met you. You told me
yes,
that
I
you
did, because that when you really look at it, when we get down and we're really honest with ourselves, like what's really holding us in this existence, after all the studying, all the learning, and then we have to be honest with ourselves, what's holding us here, those kids. So, and that was for a long
Yeah,
time.
the kids are. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because they're everything goes. Yeah, but I often think when I'm going to leave my kids, I'm going to like my ego is so torn up with them, and really they're not there. So why? I
Right.
just love it. I love what you're sharing, both of you, because it's so important to really see that we're hurting ourselves when we don't let go.
Right. We're making up a story and I'm telling you, I have got the greatest imagination.
Yeah.
This is just, I'm not trying to draw any a response or any thought or anything. But when I was a kid, because of things that happened to me and that were happening, I was suicidal. I wasn't going around saying I'm going to kill myself. In my mind, I was like, I can end this. I can just die and not be here anymore. And then, this will be, then, they'll be sad that they did all these things. And then I would sit in my room, imagine myself being dead, imagine them all being so sad, so sorry. It was like I was like a suicidal, mental masturbation going on in my mind because I would feel so, then I would feel satisfied that that their hearts were broken, and then I would feel sad because I broke their hearts. I put on a whole pageant for myself, and this is like when I was 7 or 8 years old, a whole pageant for myself of all the things that were going to happen when I killed myself and I was dead. And, of course, I obviously didn't do it. And
I'm sitting laughing because I've had the same thoughts.
I was like, they're going to feel so sad. And that's why, when people do commit suicide, my sister committed suicide. I've talked about that before. And, I've had friends who've committed suicide and I always think about that. Was that what they were thinking? when when this was happening? Oh man, that I know my sister because her husband. She felt neglected. She thought he was cheating on her, etc. And so she she just worked herself up into this total misery, pity party thing going on. And I mean, that sounds rude to say that about her, but if you knew her, you knew she was just like that, and just full of she was the salt of the earth. She was the most giving person, loving mother, caring, cooking, cleaning, making clothes. I mean, she did everything right. She was just like the perfect. Her house was spotless. She was just the perfect. But she was constantly thinking about committing suicide for a very long time. I got her journal. My brother-in-law sent it over, and I just was like astonished reading through this stuff, these stories that she had in her mind, and how she would just go on. But that's how people do. This is how we do, and this is why unless you're in like intense pain or suffering from an illness or something, psychological suffering that brings you to the point of wanting to die, or not even wanting to die, wanting to think about dying and think of it as an escape, think of it as a way to get out and to change whatever seemed to be happening. But she went through all that stuff, and I think even when she did. Because she went in the garage and ran the car engine, and for the carbon monoxide. And I think she may have thought about it and decided, against it at a point because she did turn the engine off. She turned the engine, the key was off. So the car wasn't running when my brother-in-law got there, when they got there. But so, maybe she had second thoughts but it's too late with carbon monoxide. There's nothing you can do after a certain point. So I'm sure she was maybe surprised. She was like, "Oh, okay, now I really did it." But I always think that she probably was a little surprised. I think anyone who commits suicide is going to be surprised when they get on the other side, and that's I'm not sure why I think that, but I'm pretty sure it's probably true. Um, because you see all your misery was, you know, in your mind. It was a thought that you had in your mind about what you thought was happening in the world. And those were all imagination. So anyway, I go on. Why am I talking about all this stuff? I guess it must need to come out now.
Well,
Um,
I wanted to kill myself. I had a couple depressions, but I would
mhm,
never kill myself. It was a postpartum. They kept me on some medication because I, like a ridiculous person, thought I didn't need it. And when I was getting sicker and sicker, so my mind was bringing up suicide. How and I couldn't do it. The first thing that came to my mind was, how could I do that to my kids?
right.
It's always been
Yeah.
about them, the ones that don't exist.
Yeah, yeah. But you didn't know that at the time and were
No,
thoroughly.
I knew nothing. I knew no. I just didn't understand why. What did I do to? Because depression is like hell. I mean,
Oh, it
clearly,
is.
it's pure hell. Like it's like living with that is like, ugh, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I was only like 30. I think I was like, no, I was 29. Yeah.
Well, and it's thinking about last night listening to Marshall talking about his patients and how he came to realize that, the patients, the problems weren't because they were mentally ill. The problems was because of the way that they were talking to themselves. And
Yes, yes, yes.
and once he figured out that, that all this stuff is not really being caused by any real true insanity, it's being caused by the thoughts that we believe. And he's a wait till you hear more of this. This guy he is definitely self-realized. There's no doubt in my
I
mind.
read that. I read that. I read that he was self-realized, but he would never have said it either. You
No,
know?
no, because that wasn't his. He was not pointed at trying to become self-realized.
Right.
But that was what he was really reaching for, was the knowledge of the self and the truth of his self. And in finding it, he found the truth of everyone at the same time. And, he definitely he was a saint. And the fact that he got dementia. That's what he died from dementia. So
Oh, he died from dementia. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen to us. We don't.
no, no. I mean, you could have
Anybody can have
cancer of the
dementia.
hand or a heart attack like Joel.
Right.
Anything could come up. And
What,
that
Bill had a heart attack? I didn't know that.
isn't that how he passed away, Glorian?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When he was in
Something's going to take you, though. Something.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta, something's gonna take you because this world is, I mean, you're here for a period to do what you're here to do. And he came for the period to do what he did. And, we're here for the period of doing what we're here to do. And, by gum, we're gonna do it.
Right. Right.
That's just, lucky us. I mean, seriously, lucky us. I mean,
Well, I think we are very lucky. I really do. I
we
feel like
are.
it's so lucky to, I mean, who knows when I'm going to go, but it's still like to know that none of this is real. I really need to reiterate what you just shared because that, there's a story that my mind keeps making up that when I leave, my kids are going to be so blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's just plain funny. That's
And,
all.
and 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 the fact that you're thinking about that in your now,
Right.
you're making it happening in your now.
Right.
It's like
It's just hilarious. It is. It's hilarious. We have to just laugh at ourselves because, like, plus, our children, how often do they really think about us? I mean, they have their own life.
oh yeah, they do, absolutely. And yeah, I hate to even tell my kids if I'm sick, because they get so concerned and upset and everything, and I'm not concerned or upset. So but that's my imagination too, that
Right, right. Yes, yeah, it's all over. We're all like,
uh,
and it is funny because, we think we decided to be really intense mothers or whatever, but that's all part of our script.
it is.
The one made it up. It's not like there's no individual here. So
Yep, yep,
let's get in the book now.
let's get in the book now. Okay. All right, so we are reading Never Forget to Laugh by Carol Howe. And this is the personal recollections of Bill Thetford. Bill Thetford was the co-scribe of A Course in Miracles. And so uh, this is interesting because we're just talking about Leroy Zemke in the uh, Absence from Felicity. We were just talking about, and so we're going to talk about Leroy Zemke. I see here on the screen. Can you guys see the book on the screen? I have to make sure because I'm not sure.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. I'll read unless somebody else wants to read. Okay. All right. So this is Carol Howe talking about her um, son's recollection of being with Bill Thetford. My older son Greg recalled from his experience as a young boy. It didn't matter what he said or what we did. I just remember what it was like to be around him. That was the key. When he was in the house, you could feel it. You could breathe a sigh of relief, like there was a way home. There was something about his presence that was so comforting and reassuring, and had nothing to do with what he said. I always felt an endearing sense of calmness. He brought a sense of safety, which is the key point. People will naturally gravitate toward individuals like that because they want the sense of safety and peace and tranquility. These are all the things that Rafi is always talking about. It is an unbelievably powerful feeling. Most people have some hard edges. He seemed to have soft edges with nothing that made you feel rough or constricted or uninviting. When you were near him, everything was a little bit finer, a little more okay, more resolved, none of which do quite justice to what it was like to be around him. There was something about Bill that was almost angelic. Oh my God. Have you ever been around somebody that was like that? Spent any time with someone who just
I
exuded
wonder. I don't know.
angelic peace?
Have you?
I,
I
I'm
had a
thinking,
grandfather like that. I swear to God, he died when I was like 10, but he was like a Buddha. He just sat there during our dinners. He would eat his meal, and then he wouldn't drink while he was eating, and then he would just be quiet. And then he'd have his water an hour later. But I came from a very intense family, and he would just sit there. Like his presence was beautiful. So when he died, I went to his funeral, and honestly, he appeared to me, kissing me in my dream, and I was screaming, couldn't catch my breath because I
wow.
was scared. And, and I thought that was always a sign from the divine because he acted like that. So,
That's beautiful. And yes, a person who has that sense of calm, they don't have to be a saint or a teacher of any religion or anything, just to be that person that is just the peace. I love that. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, Sandy was like that.
Mm,
Anybody you walk into the room and you just, felt joy, love, safety, peace, tranquility, and for everyone. It was the same for everyone, not just me. So I was so blessed to have that.
yeah, that is such a gift. I thought maybe she might have been that kind of person, that had that kind of effect. Uh, Sebastian Blacksley, that wrote the has written many books. The book I'm reading now, Resurrection Consciousness, with a group on Monday nights. He's like that. I met him in Scotland, and he was like an angel. It was like just being there with just this angel. He just had this constant look of joy on his face. And no matter if anything you say to him, he is like coming back to you with just sheer love. Like you don't even have to hear the words. It's just waves of love. And that's a very special thing. So yeah, Sebastian's like that. And yeah, Sharon, please go ahead.
oh no, I don't know why my hand's up. Oh,
Oh,
okay. No, I don't know why my hand's up. Okay,
oh,
I'm putting
okay.
it down. Okay.
All right. So Bill was this person that gave people made people feel like they were okay, like welcome, like Ken. That's how Ken made people feel. Like, you couldn't be shy around him because it was like he could just see into you, not in a scary way, but in a just a loving way. Um, so let me continue on reading. So Leroy Zemke made some interesting far out observations about Bill in the early 1980s. He indicated that he represented a new kind of awakened cosmic teacher, a living example of what's possible, a guru, but not in the traditional sense of the word. As he tuned into Bill, he picked up his awakened heart center energy, a deeply integrated sense of holiness, almost a saintly quality. Bill would have had difficulty accepting any of that, certainly balking at the guru idea, but the final outcome of his life gives credence to those earlier observations. Francis Vaughan remembers, he took himself lightly, but he never made light of other people's concerns. His presence was very even during times when he was not well or when he was struggling with some of his own issues. He was still able to give others loving attention. And isn't that just beautiful? Isn't that how we all, want to be? You know, I don't want people to be, thinking about, Lynn having a hard time. I want people to think about Lynn loves me. And that's I think to me that's the most important thing of all because you there's no other relationship I want to have with anyone. And, that's, I talked about my sister, that she committed suicide. And after, because we had been very close, we spoke to each other all the time. She would come and visit us, spend time with my kids. She was the only one of my siblings that ever had any kind of relationship with me after we were grown up, actually. And uh, so we were really close. I talked to her all the time. I talked to her the day before. We had a good conversation. It was weird. She knew it was my birthday. It wasn't like maybe she forgot. I don't know. Who knows? She was kind of quixotic, my sister. Um, but after afterwards, I asked myself, how is it possible that I could not have known what she was thinking? Because we were so close, and I realized that we were not that close, that I had my own agenda. I was not really listening to her a lot of the time. I'm not guilting myself for it. I'm just saying that, if I had maybe known a little bit more of what she was experiencing, I would have been even more, caring and loving for her. I don't know. Who knows? But the fact is, I realized that I never want to be surprised by my anything in a relationship like that again. I I want if I'm having a relationship with somebody, I want it to be wholehearted and no, you know, not no secrets because that's not what I mean. Just nothing that you would hold back. That if I have a relationship with you, I would hope that you would feel comfortable in sharing anything with me or having any sort of conversation or anything with me without thinking that I was going to judge you or be upset about it or that's why I think that nonviolent communication, the unconditional positive regard thing is so important because if we have true whole relationships with people, then we have a true whole relationship. It's not a relationship that's based on some sort of um, imagination or falsehood or lie or anything, and that's how I feel. I feel like she was trying to protect me and not trying, try the same thing. What the hell? Don't protect me. Tell me what's going on with you. Let me know how you are experiencing life, because um, I I don't want to be in the dark. I guess I want to have that real true relationship where we can trust each other. And so maybe that's it. Just the trust thing is so important. So that's how I would, if I thought that, this guy was just giving, 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 and I was not even knowing his problem or what was going on with him, and then, something happened to him, I would be upset. So, so anyway, but yeah, Sharon, please go ahead.
How was that when you found out? I mean, that's what I can't, it's just in my imagination that somebody killing themselves it's so dramatic for their loved ones. But you were already a course teacher. I mean, a course
No,
student.
I wasn't, not at all. No,
Oh,
no, this was when I was 40. This when the year I turned 40, and my my
oh.
my niece and her family had come to visit, and we were having a birthday party, and then the phone rang, and I picked up the phone, and I thought it was going to be somebody in my family calling to say happy birthday, and it was my niece, and she was calling to say um, Annie Gale died, and I was like, what? I was just like,
We'd
what?
have to leave you with so many questions, like why didn't she tell me? What that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what
Especially
I'm saying. I had no idea. And I read her diary or journal. I was like shocked afterwards. But it was a weird thing because she had gone, she had planned it all out. She had got made boxes and put things in the boxes for each one of my siblings except me. She didn't put anything. She didn't make a box for me. I don't understand that either. There's so much I didn't understand about what happened with her. But yeah, no, it tore my life apart, Sharon. That is absolutely what set me on this path. I mean, I had been a spiritual person and studying, and being spiritual, my whole life, but that is what just ripped me out of my little complacent life and threw me into this search. And it was, yeah, I mean, because yeah, it was such a shock. It totally you can't I could go through all the list of things that happened. It just was insane how it shifted me. But uh then I
it's all the guilt. Like we feel like why couldn't we stop them? What
Yeah,
that's
yeah. Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. And
yeah.
that's I that's when I was in the grocery store shopping and that song came on. I want to know what love is and I want you to show me. By Foreigner, that song came on, and I had like kind of a little breakdown. I had to leave the store. I went out and sat in my car and just sat in my car and cried and just was like just broken, broken, broken. And that's when I realized, this is not between anything. This is between me and God, this is God is calling me. And so I left my job. I changed my job. I moved to Ohio. I did all kinds of, just really changed a lot of things. And uh you know that's has been my whole focus ever since, is coming to know God. And then that was 1993. I read A Return to Love, Marianne Williamson, um, read the what do you call it, Celestine Prophecy. I got into all these books and everything, and that's if that hadn't happened, I would have just been complacently going along doing what I was doing already. And I mean, eventually it would have came up, I'm sure, because that's what I'm here for. But but that was the thing, that was the catalyst that changed my life forever and changed everything. Um, so let's look at Bill's issues
So
here.
sorry. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that because that's just a real shock.
Oh yeah.
It
But
would
but
take me
but then again, where did she go? And
nowhere.
what happened, to her in her life, it's yeah. Anyway, so chapter 16, Yeah, it just reminded me too of something. Jimmy Twyman, have you listened to? He did a interview. Lynn Castaldo interviewed him on Awakening Together the other night. It was pretty good.
Oh,
But
she went there. He went there. I didn't know that. Is
yeah,
that what she was doing yesterday? Because I came in the room, but I left. She was talking about it. Is that? Yeah, I didn't know she interviewed
yeah,
Jim.
she interviewed him on Sunday night for their satsang, their satsang.
Okay.
So yeah, I've got a recording of Dove recorded it for me.
Oh, you
So
know what? I wanted too. I want to hear what he has to say.
yeah,
Um,
well they've published it now, so it's on their website now.
okay.
Because the recording I have is a little rough. Anyways, he was saying he was what was it he said that somebody said to him at her funeral because his wife was murdered. Um, and someone at her funeral said something to him like, what do you think it was that made you project this into your life? Or, it's like they were, or what was she thinking that she projected having these two men come and murder her? Like that's like the kind of thing that, of course, people say at funerals. What do you think she was projecting that would made them come kill her? Anyways, so that's yeah, the question, what are you
It's a
projecting?
projection from the one mind. It's never personal.
Right, exactly. But just how rude that is to say to somebody whose
Yeah.
wife just died was kind of like, "Well, that's a course student for you."
Yeah.
You know,
Well, they happen to have the Course in Miracles people, not all, but there's a select that just think that they become more insensitive egos.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Okay, so I'll continue reading. So chapter 16. What were the issues he struggled with? The same as ours. Grievances, of course, and feelings of guilt and failure, as well as the defenses that hide the pain and distress they cause. Despite his outward demeanor and his obvious loving nature, he still had some long held notions about himself to release. Bill may have been kind to others, but he was hard on himself, troubled by perceived deficiencies. This is me, I'm talking about myself here. Troubled by perceived deficiencies. It's amazing that he could have had such a profound effect on others while still battling with his own guilt. Testimony to the two starkly different modes of living in this world. Just as Helen could alternate between polar opposites, bowing to her difficult, demanding ego and accessing the love that created the course, Bill too could operate from an unconditional loving space or be caught in the grip of self-doubt. I was just talking about this last night in my other group. I feel like a tipsy tightrope walker. I feel like a tipsy tightrope walker. Half the time I'm in one, and the other time, and I'm just constantly going back and forth and back and forth. So Bill too could operate from an unconditional loving space or be caught in the grip of self-doubt. And just as A Course in Miracles dictation was not compromised when Helen didn't feel good, so too love is present along with confusion about lack of worth. There are three avenues we can use to discern the challenging aspects of Bill's interior life. First is the direct material in the text that address both his assessment of his unworthiness and the defenses he employed to cope with it. The purpose of the course is to illustrate how to release entirely the notion of unworthiness, rather than provide more sophisticated strategies for keeping and dealing with it. Boom. The purpose of the course is to illustrate how to release entirely the notion of unworthiness, rather than provide more sophisticated strategies for keeping and dealing with it. Second, throughout his life, Bill elicited certain behavior patterns in others, which allows great insight into what he feared or found troubling in himself, although perhaps unconsciously. Quote, unacceptable behaviors in others, of course, reflect our own unfinished business and condemnation of ourselves. Third, he specifically commented on certain characteristics he found objectionable in himself and others, No detective work required here. And here, this is just exactly me too. This is how I judge myself every freaking day. That I'm looking at people, I'm judging them, I'm getting tangled in certain things with people, and I comment on characteristics I find objectionable in myself and others. Uh, and boy, don't I mean, oh, how about that Elon Musk? How about there no detective work required here. I'm in the throes of judgment on a regular basis, and this is exactly how I feel. I feel like so conflicted all the time between, the desire to be loving and the loving thoughts that are acceptable, and these desire to be judging all the time. And again, we were reading about this in Resurrection Consciousness last night, that that's how Jesus went through. He was constantly tipping back and forth and tipping back and forth until he reached that point where there was no more conflict. He was no longer willing to judge. He was no longer willing to look at the faults of the world, or the faults of himself, or the faults of others. And he just said, I will. And he accepted what he was, and he accepted the truth. And then there was no going back then. There's no going back once you hit that point. We go back and forth because I still want to enjoy the world. I still want to enjoy the differences. I still want to judge this thing and that thing. This is the here's man, this just described me completely. Um, I guess I'm pretty much thinking about myself today. So Carol says, the author of A Course in Miracles was firm and unequivocal in the messages to Bill and Helen about what they needed to look at, release, and make different choices about. Attitudes they needed to trade in for a happier way of living. Bill was the master of ego discernment, but the author, that's with a capital A, of the Course, Jesus, was a step ahead of him. And after reading the personal commentary in the text, one can see why neither Bill nor Helen wanted this personal material, disclosing their most basic fears and shortcomings, to be part of a public record. I mean, of course, the ego doesn't want people to know, you writing down and everybody reading about all the crap that you're thinking. But then again, I why not? Because if I don't want other people to see it, I'm going to hide it from myself too. I think that's why I feel comfortable. I do feel comfortable talking about my own self and my own process, because that's all I know. I don't know anybody else's process. I'm reading this and saying, sounds like his process. But this is something that I've noticed amongst teachers of A Course in Miracles, or teachers of other things. Um, in a lot of cases, the teachers that we revere do not talk about their personal life, do not talk about their personal fears, do not talk about their judgments. They don't say, what about that Elon Musk? I would never have heard. Maybe Ken would have said something like that, but only in a very joking tone, because he knew that people were thinking about it. But in general, he wasn't thinking about it, but I do. And I'm not afraid of, letting people know this is how I feel. This is what I'm thinking. These are the stories that are going on in my mind. Not because I want to advertise the stories in my mind, but because I'm no different than you. We're all the same. And, I can't, I'm not going to put on any kind of a show for anybody, that I'm saintly and don't have a problem, when in reality, I'm a hotbed of uh, a conflict. Sharon, yeah, please go ahead. Sharon, your mic is muted.
The other day when Cindy came in, you had said to her, Cindy, that's not you. And that's what we have to get. The ego is going to talk. Now, when we put our believing attention on it, it becomes a problem. But every one of us has thoughts like that. Because, it seemingly seems like he's hurting people, by caring about money more than people. So, of course, but then we have to look at ourselves and say, well, where was I like that? And even if it's not the same story, there's always the same filter in all, because there's only one. It's a hologram, and being a hologram, you see you're only yourself. But I also have those thoughts about Elon Musk, like why is he there, or blah blah blah. And this is just thought. It doesn't mean anything. So it's not us. It's just phenomena that's just talking to us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's no big deal. It's no big deal, and it's nothing to be ashamed of or to say, "Oh, I don't want to say that because people will, then later on, I mean, they're going to listen to this and they're going to say, "Oh, well, she didn't have it together as much as we thought she did," or whatever. I don't know. I think it's just silliness. So, um, and of course, it's not me that thinks these things. These are the stories. These are the stories that I tell myself. And gosh, it could be uh it could be anything, but I choose to tell the stories of my judgments of your shortcomings. Anyway, okay, so let's see, where are we at here? Oh, we have 10 more minutes. Okay. Um, Okay, so a significant digression is called for here related to the Ur text. Why was the personal material in it deleted? In addition to the potential embarrassment to the scribes, okay, the author specifically stated it should not be included. Is it important for both new and seasoned students to realize the author requested that specific or personal material, hang on just a second here, okay. Specific or personal material be removed to avoid confusion, rather than thinking this was done unilaterally by Helen, Bill, or Ken. Where she had a personal investment, Helen did interfere to a degree, contaminating some of the very earliest material, and in parentheses, and only the earliest, into parentheses, with her own biases because she was not yet a totally clear channel. Such material was inconsistent with the actual course, and Ken referred to these parts as Hellenisms. The scribing was very informal, especially in the beginning. The form was not sacrosanct. Ken Wapnick writes in an unpublished manifest, The History of the Manuscripts of A Course in Miracles. I think that may have been published by now, by the way. Um, this is Ken. What is most important to consider about the public exposure of these earlier manuscripts, in brackets, the Urtext, the Hewlin Casey version, and a couple of others, end of brackets, is that regardless of the version you read, you will receive the essential teaching of the course. In that sense, no real harm has been done. In another sense, however, the situation is unfortunate because people could be misled, and at this point, nothing can be done about it, except perhaps to clarify what inquiring students may be reading. Let me cite some examples. There is material in the text about sex and sexuality, an area that would almost certainly pique the curiosity, if not the prurient interest of students. Thus, for example, one will read that homosexuality is essentially a pathology, um, which is the traditional psychoanalytic view, and that the only purpose for sex is procreation. Two positions that are antithetical to Jesus's own teachings in the Course about seeing all forms of the ego's world as the same, the correction to the ego's first law of chaos, that there is a hierarchy of illusion. To believe that these would be the words and thoughts of Jesus is as preposterous and unthinkable as an idea to believe that I could influence Helen as to what belonged in the course and what did not. It should be obvious that these beliefs belong to Helen and not to Jesus. Helen had her own biases about sex, and unfortunately, they came in through these early passages. Yet those who believe that every word in the text is sacred and are Jesus's words can use the statements like these to support their own preconceived notions. This same issue holds, though perhaps with less emotionality, with material related to Edgar Cayce, Freud, and other psychologists. Thus, it became very clear to me in the years I knew Helen that I should take with a grain of salt some of these things she said or wrote as coming from Jesus, and this clearly included the early text material. Unfortunately, there are also some things that if you do not know the context, you will not understand what they refer to or what they mean. This inevitably means that those who were not present and did not know Helen and Bill will misunderstand much of what is found there. So that's Ken talking about the stuff that was taken out and how, really a lot of it was because, it was Helen, things that she was thinking about.
Well,
That,
yeah, it was respectful too. This is where you have like a not a judgment, but just a discernment about Robert Perry bringing stuff in. You
yeah,
know,
after they were already told to take it out and she took it out and didn't
right?
and
Yeah.
then somebody comes along and says that's what I used to joke with Doug Thompson, what you just went and dug around in her underwear drawer and found any note she happened to have and threw it in there. Jesus said buy toilet paper. I mean that's not everything Helen wrote down was uh you know s- holy. She wrote down a lot of stuff that she thought about herself that was in her own idea, her own thinking. And so, that could, that, and who could ever imagine, that Jesus would say anything about, uh, sex, you know, what it was for, why it should be. What does Jesus care about that crap? It's like if you know the character of Jesus, you know that that's something that would never ever be anything that he mentioned because if the world's not real and the body's not real, then
Why would you care?
why would that kind of behavior be being talked about? Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really glad you guys are reading this because that's exactly what I felt in reading from that other book, the cameos or whatever it is. Like if you read about Edgar Cayce, you can just discern. This is what Joel talks about. You're using your inner discernment to hear. If you're actually, not hearing with the body's ears, but listening with your soul, you can recognize that there's so much judgment in there that how could that possibly be from Jesus? So I'm really glad that you brought this out because it's very important that let's put it this way, any channel, right? If they're not 100% in line with that receptive listening mode to the still small voice, then their ego personality is coming in. And I think a lot that was said in that cameo, in this here too, but what was said in that cameo was like you could hear that this was her opinion. So that means there was residue ego coming in the beginning there. And I think we could recognize when we do look at that book that in the beginning, there's a lot of that. And then it gets more in line as I think she became accustomed to listening, with just,
Yeah,
Jesus, we're talking about non-judgment here. Like, so how it just doesn't make sense. But I'm glad you guys brought that out. And it is important to recognize that because anybody who is not 100% listening and receiving this from the still small voice, from the enlightened consciousness, does have their own perspective, perception, ego, opinion coming through. Anyway, that's it for me.
yeah. Thank you for that, Glorian, and absolutely, I agree with you completely. That there's no purpose to it. It's just like, me telling my life story. What good is that doing for anybody? It just Shut up and get out the way. Mickey, hey, sweetie, go ahead.
There we go. Yeah, hi, thanks. Late to the party here, but I thought I would throw in my 2 cents on this kind of stuff. There are people out there who are teaching based on either the Ur text or the Circle of Atonement version or whatever, who claim that the sex stuff in the first couple of chapters absolutely has to be in there because giving in to sexual desires keeps you in the body and doesn't let you transcend out of ego thought. And you gotta wonder where that's coming from. That's got to come from some place in them that wants to prove something having to do with that topic, because then that would mean breathing keeps you in the body, or eating food keeps you in the body and doesn't let you transcend ego mind. Yeah, and Glorian said they have guilt. Yeah, there's guilt, there's shame, there's a lot of things that people attach to bodily functions and bodily desires. And do we want to transcend that? Sure, we want to not think that we're a body at all. But
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that doing the things that bodies naturally do is going to stop you in some way. you
right.
know I Yeah, it it just doesn't make sense to me. But everybody wants to study the course in their own way, and if that makes them think that they're going to transcend more quickly, great, go ahead and do that. But I don't think I want to buy into thinking like that.
No. And it's the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of things, like, I'm asked Jesus, tell me where to go to buy a coat. Jesus, get me a parking spot. And somehow or the other, I'm thinking that, the Holy Spirit's getting involved in, in the dream. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Was Jesus involved in the dream when he was thinking about our sex lives? You know, that I don't think so. That's my own personal thought. Anyway, Glorian, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I know our time's up. Just quickly, I want to say thanks for sharing that, Mickey and Lynn. But if we're really looking at it, Holy Spirit sees what we see, but judges it not. So then we're back to, are we in duality, good, bad, right, wrong? Recognizing that we give everything all the meaning that it has for us. So does it really matter? Yes, you do this or you do that. No, none of it really matters. The only thing that matters is if you think you're finding your salvation in it. So if you just, recognize that your salvation only comes from my oneself united with my creator, that anything we seemingly do here, we're back in duality, good, bad, right, wrong, which is the ego judgment, which is what we're trying to rise above. So to me, it's like we just go with the first part of the lessons where he says, I give everything all the meaning that it has for me. In and of itself, it's not good or bad. It's the meaning that I'm projecting out there that's giving it that, what it means for me. So if I then recognize that the only thing, any that would be the same thing too, as saying like any of the reflections of love's presence that we see here, that we throw that baby out with the bathwater. No. I mean, if we see a beautiful sunrise or a sunset and we're enjoying it, do we say, oh no, my body's eyes are seeing that, I don't want to see it? No, we just appreciate it for what it is, but we recognize nothing outside of us will save us. And that's the goal of the undoing of the workbook lesson, is to uncover cover the error and the upside down thinking, but that's just not making it real. Recognize that it doesn't have reality except for the meaning that I place upon it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Glorian. And that's exactly it. It is the meaning that I put on it. So, if I think Jesus is interested in my sex life, then I'm gonna or if I'm doing it missionary style, or if I'm procreating. Whoa, you know, what did that have to do with, poor, Bill? I'm sure, I'm sure, there had to have been some thoughts that went on about, and maybe her disapproval or whatever. But it wasn't Jesus. Jesus wasn't doing that. Yeah, Gloria, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we're not using this book to make ourselves feel guilty about things. If that's what really that seemingly is doing to me, it's putting ourselves under judgment of whether we should be doing something or not doing something instead of following the guidance given us by the Holy Spirit, which, is always that God's Son is guiltless. Isn't that the final judgment? So to me, it's like it's an aspect of the upside down thinking. But like as Mickey said, all beliefs that lead to progress should be honored. And everything that we're doing, we should be asking, what should I say? What should I do? Where should I go? And whom should I say it to? That's the practice. And if we move into that space of inner listening and discernment, then we come to rely upon that. And like you said, no, Spirit's not going to tell us get the red or the green blouse. But ultimately, he is going to teach us. He does see what we see. He sees the fear. He sees all of it. But Jesus clearly tells us he believes it not.
Yeah,
And that's it because it's not reality. So that's the mediator, that's the comforter that we've been given, the Holy Spirit, the higher mind, to guide us and direct us through this dream of hell.
that's right. And the fact is that we already did buy the blouse. That happened at the Tiny Mad Idea. It's not something we even have a choice about. It's just a matter of
Exactly.
what, what we're going to think about it. And you just reminded me. I know we're going over into the next group, but that's okay. It'll be fine. Um, a time when I was visiting Vicky up in Quincy, and a friend, you know, picked a couple of us up, and we went out. We went over to her family's home, and she had this big mansion. It was really beautiful, and then she took us out for lunch to the country club, which was wow, very nice, taking us out for lunch to the country club. So we're getting ready to go, and I was going to wear, I was just wearing jeans, and thought came to my head, no, you don't wear those jeans, wear those black pants. Like, I don't want to wear those black pants, I want to wear my jeans. No, don't wear those jeans, wear those black pants. So I said, okay, somebody's telling me in my mind, wear these pants. So I put on the pants. We get driving over to the country club. We get to almost to the country club, and this girl pulls over the side of the road and said, "Oh, by the way, is anybody in here wearing denim? Because they won't let you in if you're wearing denim." And I'm like, oh, thank you, Spirit, for telling me to wear the black pants. Now, did Spirit tell me to wear those black pants? I don't know. But I wore the black pants, and someone else was wearing denim, and they had to change their clothes before we could go out for lunch. So either it's forewarning, you can see into the future of the dream, or the next part of the dream, or whatever, or maybe it was just a sign for me to know that I could trust that I was being cared for. But anyway, it was, things like that have happened to me so many times. And would I expect that, then now Holy Spirit's going to be telling me what to wear every day? No. Because I don't know. I don't think so. So God doesn't get involved in the dream. Anyway, thanks you guys all for very much for sharing here.